But here's some guidelines to consider tonight. Here's the first one, and that is taking one day at a time. Somebody said once this divorce would be a heck of a lot easier if my ex wasn't involved. I guess that's probably true. But some of us, notice, need to break the link to them that paralyzes us when it comes to me dealing with my future. Because we're caught up in this relationship that sometimes we need to negotiate how much time we spend in talking to the other person, depending on what it's about, i.e. your children. Apostle Paul said this, I love this paraphrase from the Message. It says, don't fret or worry, instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers. Letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's holiness, everything coming together for good will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. Now, some of us can be discouraged because we have an expectation of our own growth, of where we think we ought to be. What are some things I need to consider if I find myself in a new relationship? Again, tonight you might be thinking, gosh, that's the last thing that's on my mind. But statistically, weeks from now, months from now, maybe a year from now, that might be a possibility. You might meet someone. And so we're in a position that you are probably in here tonight, that there's been some unmet needs in your life emotionally. And I'm going to take a wild guess, this is both genders, that you're reasonably vulnerable to the first fair relationship. And so we settle, as I said before, for bad love than no love at all. And so we'll settle for the first fair relationship. Most people that get remarried in America settle for the first dating relationship. So I'm concerned about time for you, for me. What is everybody's hurry to be in another relationship? And it has more to do with who you are as opposed to the person you might meet. What is the hurry? If, again, God willing, I'm in a relationship with somebody of the opposite sex in the future, how fast is this relationship going? I'm just curious, how many people have ever had a speeding ticket? Let me ask again, how many... I mean, you know, it's interesting now that there used to be police officers right over here in Rock Rimmon on the Vindicator, right by that junior high, and I got caught. I've been living here a long time, but I got caught a couple of times. But you know what? You continue to speed, you're going to get caught eventually, don't you think? Does that make sense? You're going to pay the price. Your insurance goes up, whatever else. But you're going to pay the price. But why do we think when a relationship is going so fast, we're not going to pay the price? Aloneness is the physical state of being separated from other people. So if I'm married, I'm on the job, I'm traveling, I'm away from my kids, I'm away from my family, I'm alone. So what? Everybody's alone, sooner or later, married or not. But loneliness, as I've been saying, is an emotional state of feeling disconnected from other people. So the truth is, every one of us experiences aloneness, separated from people. We yearn for a relationship because God's wired us that way. So, but yet loneliness is not necessarily directly dependent on the presence of people. It has more to do with what we think about our circumstance, and has more to do with our upbringing, perhaps. For example, you can be in a crowd and still feel lonely, or you can be in a crowd, you're not alone, but you feel lonely. We need to consider repacking our suitcase. How we pack it, or maybe that means unpacking it. And how we pack our bags now and in the future will determine if we're going to have a good trip. Of what I'm going to put into my life. And so some of us need to pack a little bit lighter. And if I don't rearrange my suitcase, or even if I do, and I hopefully take it enough time to consider what I need in my life in that suitcase, for this trip I'm on, this process, this journey of recovery, it impacts what? How I pack my bag. It impacts my trip. It impacts my career. It impacts my job. It impacts my house, maybe. My job. It impacts everything. And this impacts the way I'm going to do relationships, my finances, my future. And so we need to consider tonight packing a little bit lighter. Because they're lingering on and their identity is wrapped up in their storyline. In their paralysis, be it mental, emotional, or even physical. But for this guy, his identity was wrapped up in his paralysis, don't you think? Sure, absolutely. 38 years, certainly. He was wrapped up in his paralysis. And I've heard it said about this passage, someone asked this question, is the comfort of our stagnation worth a risk of growth? Is it worth taking a chance, taking a baby step, appropriating some of the things we've talked about, and learning what I can from my loss, and to get back into the game?